treasure hunter discovers a cursed temple in Africa. Chapter 1. The hunter named Cole. Some men chase gold, others run from ghosts. Cole Maddox did both. The desert wind had teeth that day. It bit at the edges of the battered canvas tent, flapping it like the wings of a dying bird. Cole Maddox sat inside, legs stretched, boots caked in red dust, and fingers wrapped around a chipped tin mug filled with stale coffee. The heat clung to his skin like sweat-soaked regrets. His eyes, gray like smoke, watched the horizon through the tent's open flap, where the Sahara faded into a mirage of golden nothing. He wasn't supposed to be in Algeria. Not anymore. Not after what happened in Tunisia. But treasure hunters like Cole had one thing in common. They never stayed buried long. Across from him sat the man responsible for dragging him back into the game. A professor of African archaeology named Julien Moreau, wiry and sharp-eyed, with sweat stains on his collar and a folder thick with brittle parchment pages. "You know it's suicide," Cole said, his voice rough as dry gravel. Julien pushed his glasses up. "If it were easy, someone else would have already found it." Cole raised an eyebrow. "You mean looted it?" "I mean studied it," the professor replied quickly. "Documented, preserved." Cole let out a bitter laugh. "That temple's been buried for centuries. You think it wants to be found?" Julien didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out a single sheet of weathered vellum from the folder and slid it across the crate that served as a table. This came from a missionary's journal in 1873. He called it the Throne of the Black God. Said it sat at the heart of a stone temple in the Ituri rainforest, surrounded by obsidian statues and bones polished white by the sun. Cole frowned. "Congo?" Julien nodded. "Deep in the north, past Kisangani, past the mapped rivers. He died weeks later, but not before sending this." Cole traced a finger along the map drawn in faded ink. It showed a series of rough landmarks, waterfalls, a serpent-shaped river, something called Mbala's Mouth, and at the center a jagged sun symbol inked in red. Underneath, in shaking handwriting, "Beware the eyes that never blink. The temple is not sealed by man, but by wrath." Cole leaned back, sighing. His fingers rubbed the scar above his left brow, a remnant from a dig in Guatemala that ended with a cave collapsing and 2 men never making it out. "I've heard stories about cursed temples," Cole muttered. "Every one of them ends the same, with graves." Julien smiled faintly. "And yet you're still alive." Barely, Cole thought. Later that night, the desert went quiet at dusk. Too quiet. Even the insects knew to hide when the sun dipped behind the dunes. Cole sat outside his tent, watching the stars rise like ancient ghosts across the sky. He wasn't a man of faith, but something about the professor's map stirred old instincts. Deep ones. The kind that kept a man alive in forgotten tombs and jungles filled with venom. Behind him, the camp generators hummed low. Julien and his assistant worked under a flickering lantern, packing crates with supplies for the journey south. Cole stared at the map again. The red ink almost looked fresh in the moonlight. He didn't believe in curses, but he did believe in warnings, and every line on that paper felt like a warning wrapped in bait. He thought about the jungle, about the heat, the rot, the things that slithered beneath ferns, but most of all he thought about what waited at the center of it all. A temple untouched for centuries, hidden by myth and murder. And yet something inside him stirred. That old hunger. Not for gold, not anymore. For meaning, for redemption, for the truth. Chapter 2. Into the Green Inferno. The jungle doesn't kill quickly. It watches, waits, and whispers. The convoy rolled out from Kisangani at dawn. Red dust rose behind the 2 trucks like smoke from a fire that had yet to burn. Amara drove the lead vehicle in silence, her eyes scanning the road as if it might bite. Cole sat beside her, arms folded, machete strapped to his thigh. Behind them, Julien bumped along in the second truck, scribbling into a notepad, too distracted by theories to notice the tension settling like fog. Hours passed, and civilization peeled away. Towns became villages, villages became thatched huts, and then nothing. just trees. Endless, choking green, vines the size of ropes dangled from the canopy. The air grew heavier with every mile, dense with moisture and the scent of decay. "This is where maps stop making sense," Amara muttered, shifting gears. "The jungle changes faster than satellites can track." Cole said nothing. He was watching the tree line. He had the feeling they were already being watched back. Camped by the river, that night they made camp near a wide, lazy river that shimmered under moonlight like a silver snake. The air buzzed with insects. Somewhere far off, something screamed once and fell silent. Julian was thrilled. "This is it," he whispered, rolling out a weathered scroll under a lantern. "The local tribes call it Ndombolo, a place where men go but never return." His finger tapped the ancient sketch. It said the temple was built as a tomb for a forgotten king, or god, no one's sure which. Amara added dryly, "The villagers upriver say the forest swallowed the temple because it didn't want it remembered." Cole chewed slowly on dried meat. "Funny how the things people try to bury always claw their way back." Julian pointed to the map. "We'll follow the Mbali River. There's a fork ahead that bends west. According to legend, that's where we'll find Mbala's mouth, the stone gate to the cursed valley." "Sounds inviting," Cole muttered. He tossed his empty food packet into the fire and stood. "Let's hope it's not the kind of mouth that eats back." The first warning. They traveled by boat the next day, 2 narrow dugouts fitted with small motors, carving a path through thick brown water. Vines draped from low-hanging trees. Fish jumped at the sound of the engines. Once, a crocodile slipped silently beneath the surface, trailing the wake. Hours passed before they saw it. A totem, standing at the riverbank, human height, carved from black wood, with empty eye sockets and a gaping mouth. A circle of bones lay at its base, animal, maybe, maybe not. Amara slowed the motor. "That wasn't here last season." Julian leaned forward. "It's beautiful." Cole just stared at the figure. Something about the eye sockets, too round, too deep, made his spine twitch. "It's a marker," he said. "A boundary." "Warning or invitation?" Julian asked. Cole looked at him. "Does it matter?" Deeper still. The jungle grew thicker. The river narrowed. They switched to paddles. Branches scraped overhead, bats scattered from hollow trees. The buzz of insects never stopped. The sun barely pierced the canopy now. Everything below was green twilight, dripping with heat and breath. Cole hacked through vines with his machete when they reached land again, carving a slow trail west toward the red-marked spot on the map. Then the forest began to change. The birds stopped singing. No monkeys called. Just stillness. The kind of silence that made you feel like you'd already died and just didn't know it yet. Amara dropped her voice. "This part isn't mapped. No trails. The villagers don't come here." Julian, despite the sweat on his brow, grinned. "Which means we're close." Cole stepped over a mossy log, hand resting on the revolver at his belt. Or too far in. The mouth of Mbala. They found it on the 4th day. A clearing of red clay, carved into a shallow basin ringed with jagged stones. At its center stood a massive slab of dark stone, half buried in vines. It resembled a mouth, an open maw, teeth chipped and worn by rain, but still sharp. Symbols covered the stone's lips. Glyphs, old as time, and a series of dots that looked like eyes. Julian nearly wept. "This is it! This is Mbala's mouth!" Amara wasn't smiling. "There are fresh tracks here. Heavy boots." Cole knelt beside one, pressed 2 fingers to the indentation. "Not ours," he said. "Maybe a week old. 3 men. No return tracks." Amara stared at the stone entrance. Then they went in. Cole rose slowly, eyes narrowing, and they never came out. Chapter 3. The Temple Breathes. Stone can forget the sun, but it never forgets blood. They entered at dawn. Mist curled through the clearing like ghost smoke, and the stone mouth of the temple gaped wide before them, darker than shadow, older than time. Cole stepped through first, machete drawn, boots silent on the damp stone floor. The air inside was cold. Not just cool, but cold, like the earth had swallowed something and never let it die. Behind him, Amara flicked on a headlamp. Her beam sliced through the dark, revealing a long, sloping corridor lined with faded carvings, strange figures with elongated limbs, twisted arms reaching toward the ceiling. Some had no faces. Others had too many. Julian murmured as he traced the walls with reverent fingers. These aren't tribal. This isn't Bantu or Congo or Nubian. This is older, pre-language. Cole didn't answer. He was staring ahead, listening. The tunnel breathed. Steps beneath the skin of the earth. The path led downward in slow, spiraling steps. Moss hung like curtains from the ceiling. The walls dripped with condensation. Every so often the group passed skeletons, some human, some not. Sacrifices? Amara asked quietly. Julian nodded. Or warnings. Twice they passed iron tools, modern, rusted, left behind. The last expedition. Cole knelt by a rusted flare. It was lit, he said. They went in alive, but no one came back. Julian turned to the wall again. Some myths say the temple was built by a king who made a bargain with the gods of the underworld. He buried himself inside, alive, and claimed he'd return when the stars burned out. Amara checked her rifle. Let's hope he overslept. The Chamber of Eyes. The descent ended in a domed chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. The walls were inlaid with hundreds of tiny stones, black obsidian or something like it, each shaped like an eye. Every direction you turned, they watched. In the center of the floor, a pit. Around the pit, 3 skeletons. Their gear was modern, machetes, a cracked flashlight, a broken radio. Cole picked up a rusted nameplate from a vest. One of the Dutch mercenaries, he muttered. Last seen in '09. No one ever found them. Julian crouched by the edge of the pit. They didn't fall. They were dragged. Scratch marks lined the stone, deep, clawed. From far below, a sound echoed. Not an animal. Not wind. A whisper. Cole backed away slowly. This temple isn't dead. Amara aimed her light into the pit. Then let's not wake it. Echoes of the curse. As they explored deeper chambers, the carvings became stranger. One wall showed a man kneeling before a serpent with 7 heads. Another showed the same man, now with empty eyes crowned in fire. Beside him, figures twisted and bent, half human, half bone, bowing in submission. They believed their king became a god. Julian whispered, he ruled from within the earth. Cole's hand brushed a series of carvings showing invaders, men with guns, boots, and torches. The last panel showed them screaming, swallowed by roots. He turned to Amara. These walls are more than art, they're prophecy. She checked the passage behind them, or a trap disguised as history. Suddenly, a deep groan rolled through the stone under their feet. Dust rained from the ceiling. The temple was moving. The door that bleeds. In the final corridor, they found a door. It wasn't stone, but something else. Black and veined like old wood, but warm to the touch, pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat. Carved into it was a single phrase, translated by Julian through trembling lips. He who opens this gate carries the memory of all who perish. Cole raised his hand to stop him. We don't need to open it. But the door was already bleeding. A single line of thick red dripped from its base, as if the temple itself had remembered pain. Amara stepped back. This isn't archaeology anymore. Julian was staring at the blood. It never was. Descent into madness. That night, camped in the outer chamber, something changed. The jungle outside screamed with life, but inside, it was silence and stone. Julian began talking in his sleep, whispers in a language none of them knew. Amara's compass spun slowly, endlessly. Cole awoke at midnight and found handprints on the inside of his tent flap. Small, too small to be any of theirs. They weren't alone. Not anymore. Chapter 4, The Curse Awakens. The dead have no need for gold, but they'll kill to protect it. The jungle had gone silent. At dawn, a heavy stillness hung in the air like fog. No birds called, no insects chirped. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Cole awoke first. The fire had burned out, though it should have lasted until morning. The ashes were cold. Amara was already sitting up, rifle in hand, scanning the corridor. Julian hadn't slept. He sat against the wall, mumbling. Dirt clung to his face. His journal was open on his lap, but the writing in it wasn't his. Symbols, spirals, crosses, eyes, endless rows of them, scratched in red ink and some in something darker. "Julian," Cole said quietly. "You all right?" Julian didn't answer, but his eyes flicked up, wide and hollow. "They're awake," he whispered, "the ones who were buried. The temple remembers." Signs of madness. By mid-morning, they moved deeper into the ruins. The hallway past the bleeding door had changed overnight. Where once was solid wall, now stood a cracked opening, as if the temple had rearranged itself. Cole stared at it. "We didn't make this." "No," Amara said, "but something did." Inside, the air was thick and wet, heavy with the scent of metal and decay. The stone walls were now veined with black roots pulsing faintly under the surface. At the end of the hall, they reached a wide chamber lit only by narrow shafts of light through the ceiling. A stone altar stood at the center, and on it, fresh blood. The survivor. They weren't alone. A rustle echoed from behind a fallen pillar. Cole raised his weapon. A figure stumbled out, barely human, skin sunburned and peeling, eyes bloodshot and wild. He collapsed at their feet, whispering in Dutch. Julien knelt. "He's from the 09 team, one of the mercenaries. My God, he's been here all this time." The man clutched Julian's vest, raving between gasps, words like gate, serpent, sacrifice. He kept pointing down, beneath the altar. Then he seized. Blood poured from his mouth. His body twisted violently, like something inside was pulling him backward, and then he died. Amara backed away, hand trembling. That wasn't natural. Cole knelt, touching the floor. It was warm. The serpent's spine under the altar, they found a spiral staircase. It descended into the deep, far deeper than it should have, farther than the height of the temple itself. Each step felt like sinking. The deeper they went, the louder the hum became. Not mechanical, but alive. A constant low thrum, like a voice speaking too low to understand. Julian was whispering again, not to the others, but to the walls. "Julian," Cole said, grabbing his shoulder, "snap out of it." Julian blinked hard, his voice cracked. "I keep seeing her." "Who?" "The Queen, the one who rules this place. She speaks through the stone. She's under the earth, and she's still alive." The Hall of Bone. At the bottom of the stairs they found a hall made entirely of skeletons. The walls, the pillars, even the floor, not arranged, fused, melded into the structure like mortar. Thousands of skulls lined the corridor, some animal, some human, some too twisted to identify. Many still had gold in their teeth, jewelry fused into bone. Others were marked with carvings. One skull had fresh blood dripping from the eye sockets. Julian touched it and screamed. He staggered back, clutching his head. "They showed me. They burned themselves alive to stay here. They gave their souls to the temple. That's what curses are. Not magic, memories that don't die." Cole helped him to his feet. "We need to turn back." But behind them, the stairs had closed. Chamber of the Queen. The hallway ended in a massive stone chamber. Pillars of obsidian curved like ribs overhead. At the far end, a throne stood. Upon it sat a figure, skeletal, draped in decayed cloth and golden armor. Her skull was crowned with 7 sharp spikes. Her eye sockets burned faintly red. Amara raised her rifle. "Don't," Julian said. "That's her." Cole approached slowly, hand on his machete. "She's dead." "No," Julian whispered. "She's waiting." The chamber trembled. A moan echoed from the walls, long and deep, filled with sorrow. Then the Queen stood. The curse speaks. It wasn't her bones that moved. It was the temple. The walls rippled. The ground cracked. The ceiling bled dust and sand. From the base of the throne, tendrils of root and flesh uncoiled, ancient, blackened, glistening. They snaked toward the group like fingers. "She was buried alive," Julian said, shaking. "But the curse kept her breathing. The priests fed her souls. And now, she wants ours." Cole raised his machete and swung. He severed one of the roots, but the others writhed forward. Amara fired. Stone and rot exploded. But the temple screamed, not the Queen. Then Julian stepped forward. He held his journal high. "I've seen her story. I know her name." The Queen stopped moving. The temple listened. Chapter 5. The Name of the Dead. To speak the name of the dead is to invite them in. To know it is to control them. Julian stood frozen beneath the temple's pulsing heart. The journal trembled in his hands as if it, too, feared what he was about to say. Amara's rifle was still raised, her finger tight on the trigger, but she didn't fire. Cole watched the queen. The skeletal figure on the throne did not move, but something behind her did. The walls themselves seemed to shift, folding like parchment around her throne, revealing carvings, writings, and a name repeated again and again, etched into the stone in blood-red ink. Julian whispered, "Imbayo, the one who waited." The air went still. The queen's head tilted slightly. The red light in her eye sockets faded, then flared brighter. The throne cracked beneath her. Julian dropped the journal and stepped back. "She knows I read it." "You said you knew her name," Cole said. "Use it." Julian's voice trembled. "It's not that simple. Knowing the name opens the door, but it also lets her see you. Speak it too often, and she walks in." "She's already in," Amara said grimly. "We either lock the door or burn the house down." Trial of blood. A rumble rolled through the ground. The queen raised one arm, bone wrapped in sinew, plated in gold, and pointed to the wall. It opened. Beyond it, a staircase descending into red light. "Another trial," Julian said. "Of course," Cole muttered. "Every damn treasure's gotta come with one." As they stepped through the passage, the door sealed behind them. The air turned sharp, metallic, and the smell, burnt flesh. The walls were lined with murals, depictions of people entering the temple and never leaving, sacrifices, battles, a line of treasure hunters with eyes gouged and hands removed. The final panel, it showed 3 figures, one holding a book, one with a blade, one with fire. Them. The mirror room. They reached a chamber shaped like a dome, lit by braziers that hadn't burned in 1,000 years, but now flickered to life. In the center stood a single obsidian mirror. The reflections within weren't their own. Julian saw his father, mad-eyed and dying, just like the real man had been when the jungle took him. Amara saw her brother, dragged into darkness, screaming for help she never gave. Cole saw himself, older, slower, alone, buried under a landslide of gold. Each figure spoke. Whispers, sharp and cruel. Cole looked away. "This is meant to break us." Julian stepped forward, eyes fixed on the mirror. "This is the test. Face your guilt, or become part of the curse." And then he touched the glass. Imbayo's judgment. The room darkened instantly. From the walls, black tendrils burst forth, grabbing Julian, pulling him upward. Amara fired. Cole swung, but nothing touched the shadow. Julian screamed as the mirror shattered. And then, silence. Julian lay crumpled on the floor, breathing. Cole rushed to him. "You okay?" Julian looked up. "She showed me everything." "What everything?" "She was once a queen of the river kingdoms," he whispered. "Her people built this place to protect something older than her, a stone, a fragment of power that should never be touched. But she broke the seals, she tried to own it. And the curse, she became it. A way out." The chamber behind the mirror was circular, and at its center sat a stone, smooth, black, and humming with a low, endless vibration. It pulsed like a heartbeat. It wasn't large, but the moment Cole stepped near it, pain shot through his head. Images, floods, fires, a world collapsing into screams. He staggered back. Julian knelt beside it. "That's the source. The curse. The queen didn't die. She became part of it. She's not protecting gold. She's guarding this." Amara frowned. "So how do we stop her?" "Speak her name," Julian said, "and bury the stone." "Bury it where?" Cole asked. Julian looked up. "In ourselves. The burials." They built a cairn of bones in the center of the chamber. Julian placed the black stone beneath it, and together they stacked skulls, ribs, crumbled weapons. Each piece hissed when it touched the cursed artifact. Cole whispered her name, Imbayo, and the walls trembled. They stepped back as the bones sealed over, as though drawn by the stone's gravity. Then silence. True silence. The red glow faded. The humming stopped, and the air became still. Empty. Peaceful. The curse had been buried. or at least contained, escape. They returned the way they came, and the temple opened before them. Passageways once blocked now revealed exits. Walls that once threatened to crush them were still. As they stepped back into the open jungle, the sun broke through. The birds were singing again. Julian fell to his knees. Amara cried, though she'd never admit it. And Cole, he looked back once, toward the stone heart of the temple, then whispered, "Rest now," and turned away. Chapter 6, The Fire in the Trees. The jungle remembers. It sees the blood, the greed, and the ones who dare disturb its sleep. They had barely stepped out of the temple's shadow when the fire began. Not a flame they had started, but something older, hungrier, set by no human hand. The trees whispered, leaves rustled like bones in windless air, and then the first tree caught fire. No spark, no warning, just a roar of orange erupting from the trunk. Julian turned. "She's not done." Cole narrowed his eyes. "You buried the stone." "I buried the curse," Julian said grimly, "but not all the ghosts." The jungle turns. The flames spread like thought, instant, irrational. Trees blazed without fuel, and the sky darkened with smoke. Amara led the way, machete slashing vines as they raced through the underbrush. The temple behind them hissed as if alive. "Where's north?" Cole barked. Julian pulled out his compass. It spun wildly, needle twitching like a dying insect. No direction. No logic. This is her fire. Behind them the canopy crashed, roots torn from earth, flaming limbs falling like meteors. They ran. The hunter becomes the prey. Hours or minutes passed. Time melted in the heat. When they finally stopped, Amara collapsed against a rock, coughing from smoke. Julian's shirt was soaked with sweat. Ash streaked across his face like war paint. Cole looked around, nothing but blackened earth and red glow behind the trees. "Something's wrong," Julian muttered. Amara nodded. "We've been running in circles." She pointed to a tree with a marking. Her knife had carved a notch hours ago. They had returned to the same clearing. The fire was hurting them. Voices in the flame night fell, but the fire didn't die. Instead, it crept closer, slow, patient. They huddled together by a creek, if it could be called that, barely a trickle of water now boiling at the edges. Then came the voices, not loud, not close, but clear. From the trees, from the flames. Julian stood slowly. "She's calling us again." Amara grabbed his arm. "Don't answer." "She's not talking to me," he said. "She's talking to him." They turned to Cole. He was standing still, eyes wide, fixed on the horizon. "Cole?" Amara said carefully. He didn't respond. Then he whispered, "I see her." The Queen's bargain. Cole stepped toward the fire. Julian reached for him, but something pushed them back. Not wind, not force, will. In the blaze beyond the clearing, the Queen stood, no longer bone and shadow, but whole, flesh and gold, eyes burning, hair like twisted vines and flames. "You carry her mark," she said in a voice that did not echo. Cole dropped to his knees. "I buried the stone," he whispered. "We ended the curse." She laughed, a sound like tearing silk. "You buried the vessel," she said, "but I am the flame." Cole gritted his teeth. "What do you want?" "A name," she said. "Give me a name and I will let you walk." The choice. Julian and Amara struggled against the unseen force as Cole stood. "One name," the Queen said again. "A name with blood. A name that matters." Cole turned slowly. His eyes met Amara's. Her hand gripped the pistol at her hip, but didn't raise it. Julian shook his head. "Don't listen. She wants your soul." "I don't need his soul," the Queen said. "Just his memory. One name, one loss, one offering." Cole swallowed hard and said, "My own." The fire ends. The jungle went silent. The flames stopped. One by one, the trees collapsed, not in ash but in peace, as if they had been pretending all along. The fire was gone. The jungle cooled. The Queen vanished, and Cole stood there still breathing, but something in his eyes was different. Gone. He turned to the others. "What's my name?" he asked quietly. Julian stared at him. "Cole." He blinked. "No, that's not it. That's not me anymore." The way forward. They walked again, through jungle no longer hostile, past trees that now bent gently with wind. By dawn they reached a ridge, Beyond it, a river, a village, smoke curling from huts, voices, life. They were out, but they were not whole. Julian wrote in his journal that night beside the fire. She asked for a name, and he gave her his own. She took his past, but left his life. I wonder if that was mercy, or just a quieter kind of curse. Chapter 7, Whispers in the Dust. The past never truly dies. It waits, patient as the desert wind, ready to breathe life into the forgotten. Return to the village. The village was small, nestled by the river's edge like a secret held tight. Smoke curled from simple huts, and children's laughter echoed, mingling with the chirping of cicadas. Julian, Amara, and Cole walked into the heart of the settlement, faces turned, curious, cautious. These were people who lived in harmony with the land, not like them, trespassers bearing scars of dark temples and ancient curses. An elder woman approached them, her eyes sharp but kind. She wore a necklace of carved bones and beads, her hair streaked silver and black. "You have walked the fire," she said softly. Julian nodded. "We did. And yet you live." She smiled, a sad, knowing look, because the flame took more than it gave. The weight of memory. That night, under a sky thick with stars, Cole sat by the fire, eyes distant. Amara joined him. "You're different," she said, "since the Queen took your past." Cole nodded slowly. "It's like a shadow inside, a hole where my memories used to be." "What do you remember?" "Faces, places, names," he whispered, "but not mine." Julian watched from across the fire, pen in hand. "A man without a past, how do you find your future?" Cole looked up, voice barely audible. "By walking forward, but not alone." Echoes of the temple days later, they prepared to leave the village. Supplies replenished, wounds healed, but the jungle wasn't done with them. As they crossed the river, a chilling wind swept through the trees. Amara stopped. "Did you hear that?" A faint whisper, like a breath on the back of their necks. Julian strained his ears. "Voices," he said, "from the temple." Suddenly a figure appeared from the shadows, a man wrapped in tattered robes, eyes wild. "The curse is not broken," the man warned. "It sleeps, but the temple remembers. The flame will rise again." The warning, the stranger introduced himself as Kato, a guardian of the temple's secret. He told tales of ancient sacrifices, of blood spilled to keep the queen chained beneath stone. "You carry her mark," Kato said, eyes fierce, "and she will call to you again." Cole's jaw clenched. "I've paid her price." "No," Kato replied. "You've only delayed her hunger." A rift in the group, tensions grew. Amara wanted to push forward, destroy the temple once and for all. Julian wished to leave, to write their story and warn others. Cole remained silent, haunted by the emptiness inside. One night, voices whispered through the campfire's glow, arguments, doubts, fears. "We can't outrun this," Amara said. "We must face it." "But at what cost?" Julian asked. "Are we hunters or prey?" Cole stood, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "We're bound now, by fire, by curse, by blood." The path ahead. The next morning they followed Kato deeper into the jungle. The trees grew denser, the air thicker. Signs appeared, carved symbols, bones arranged in patterns. The land seemed to breathe beneath their feet. At the edge of a clearing, the temple's hidden entrance awaited, sealed by time and shadow. Julian swallowed hard. "This is where it begins again." Cole nodded. Amara tightened her grip on her rifle. Together, they stepped forward. Chapter 8, The Awakening Flame. Some fires burn not to consume, but to reveal the truth buried deep within shadows. Into the heart of darkness. The heavy stone door loomed before them, covered in ancient glyphs glowing faintly under the filtered sunlight. Vines crept across its surface, clutching as if to hold back the secrets inside. Kato knelt and traced a hand over the carvings. "The seal is fragile. One wrong move, and the temple will awaken." Julian took a deep breath. "We have to see what lies beyond." Amara readied her flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness like a spear. Cole held the pendant Kato had given him, a small obsidian flame etched with cryptic symbols. With a final nod, Kato pushed the door. It shifted with a grinding groan and slowly opened, revealing a dark passageway that swallowed the light. Shadows and secrets. They stepped inside, the air thick with dust and something else, an unsettling energy that prickled their skin. Walls lined with faded murals depicted rituals of fire and sacrifice. Figures danced around blazing altars, their faces twisted in ecstasy and agony. A low rumble echoed, distant but growing. "Keep moving," Kato urged. The path narrowed, descending into the earth, the temperature dropping with every step. The chamber of echoes. At last they entered a vast chamber. The ceiling soared overhead, lost in darkness. At its center burned an eternal flame, blue and ethereal, hovering above an ancient stone altar. "The Queen's flame," Kato whispered. Julian approached cautiously. "It's beautiful and terrifying." Amara scanned the room. "What's the source of that rumble?" Suddenly the ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The flame flickered, shifting from blue to fiery red. The curse reborn. A chilling wind swept through the chamber, extinguishing their lights. In the darkness, voices rose, whispers in languages long dead. Cole gripped the obsidian pendant tightly. "Her spirit stirs," Kato said gravely. "The temple remembers. The curse reignites." The blue flame flared back to life, igniting the walls in a fiery glow. Figures appeared, ghostly forms of ancient priests, their eyes hollow but burning with rage. One stepped forward, raising a flaming staff. "You who have come seeking gold shall pay in blood." A battle of will. Amara raised her rifle, firing into the shadows. Bullets passed through phantoms, their forms flickering but not fading. Julian shouted, "We need to break the flame." Cole stepped to the altar, chanting words from the journal they had found. The pendant in his hand pulsed with energy, resonating with the eternal fire. The ghosts lunged, howling. Cole's voice grew stronger. The flames roared. Sacrifice and salvation. Kato joined Cole, adding his own incantations. The altar shook. The flames twisted, constricting around the ghostly priests. A blinding light erupted. When it faded, the chamber was still. The spirits were gone, the flame extinguished. But Cole collapsed. Drained, his eyes closed. Aftermath. Julian and Amara rushed to Cole's side. He opened his eyes slowly. The curse, broken. For now. Kato smiled faintly, but his eyes were weary. The temple's wrath is subdued, but it will not forget. Outside, dawn broke over the jungle canopy. The flush, they had survived the temple's heart. But the true journey, the price of the curse, was just beginning. Chapter 9. The Price of the Curse. Freedom never comes without a cost. The journey back. The jungle was eerily silent as they retraced their steps from the cursed temple. The dense canopy filtered the sunlight into scattered beams, but even the birds seemed to hold their breath. Cole leaned heavily on Julian's shoulder, his face pale and drawn. The power of the temple's curse had drained him far more than anyone realized. "We broke it," Cole whispered hoarsely. "But the curse, it's not gone. It's bound to me now." Kato's eyes darkened. "The spirit chose a new vessel. Your fate is tied to the temple, haunted by shadows." That night, as the campfire crackled, Cole sat apart, clutching the obsidian pendant. Shadows flickered unnaturally around him, and a cold chill clung to the air. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open, glowing faintly red. A voice echoed inside his mind, a whisper in a forgotten tongue, promising power and doom. Amara watched with growing concern. "Cole, you have to fight it." Cole nodded, voice strained. "If I don't, the curse will consume me, and all of you." The weight of legacy. Kato revealed an ancient text from the journal, explaining the curse's true nature. The temple's power could grant immortality, but only through eternal servitude to the Queen's spirit. "The gold was a lure," Kato said grimly. "The real treasure is a prison." Julian clenched his fists. "So what do? "We find a way to sever the bond," Kato answered, "but it will mean returning to the temple and risking everything again." Return to the temple. With heavy hearts, they prepared for one last journey into the heart of darkness. The jungle seemed alive with unseen eyes watching, waiting. As they reached the temple's entrance, Cole's grip on the pendant tightened. The weight of the curse bore down like a chain. Inside, the chamber was silent, the eternal flame extinguished, but the air thrummed with latent power. Breaking the chains, Cole stepped forward to the altar, chanting the reversal incantation. The pendant glowed, then pulsed violently. Suddenly, spectral chains burst from Cole's body, wrapping around him. Pain racked him as the curse fought to hold its claim. Julian and Amara joined hands, lending strength through an ancient ritual Cato guided them through. Freedom's price. With a final surge, the chains shattered and Cole collapsed, free at last. The temple trembled and the walls began to crumble. They fled through collapsing corridors, the ground shaking beneath their feet. Bursting into the daylight, they watched as the temple sealed itself, its secrets buried once more. A new dawn, exhausted but alive, the group made their way back to civilization. Cole, forever changed, vowed to protect the knowledge of the cursed temple. Cato disappeared into the jungle, a guardian of ancient secrets. Julian and Amara looked ahead, knowing some legends were best left undisturbed. The treasure hunter's tale ended not with gold, but with wisdom, and the price paid to earn it. Epilogue. The true treasure years passed since the jungle had swallowed the cursed temple once again. The world beyond moved on, oblivious to the ancient secrets buried deep beneath Africa's green canopy. Cole stood on the veranda of a small house at the edge of the village, the obsidian pendant resting on a wooden table beside him. His eyes, once filled with hunger for gold, now carried the quiet weight of understanding. He had learned that the greatest treasure wasn't the gleam of gold or the allure of ancient artifacts. It was the knowledge passed down through time, the respect for cultures and spirits that had guarded their secrets fiercely. It was the courage to face one's own demons, to resist temptation, and to protect rather than plunder. Julian had returned to Europe, carrying detailed journals and stories, not to boast of riches, but to remind the world of the price greed could demand. Amara had become a healer in her community, teaching that some mysteries were not to be disturbed but honored. And Cato remained a shadow among the trees, a silent guardian ensuring that the temple's curse remained unbroken and that the balance between man and spirit endured. Cole looked out over the jungle, feeling the pulse of the land beneath his feet. The curse had almost taken everything, but it had also given him a gift, the wisdom to know when to walk away. The true treasure was never gold. It was respect. It was legacy. It was the stories passed down by those who remembered. And as the sun set behind the distant hills, Cole whispered a final prayer of gratitude, not for wealth, but for the lessons learned in the heart of the cursed temple.